Good evening. My name is Jamiel Robinson, and I'm getting ready to share a story about failure. So, it was actually 2006. At that time, I had started to become more engaged and more active in the community. So I was born and raised here in the city of Grand Rapids, southeast side, grew up by King Park. But by the time 2006 came around, I had a young family. I was working to provide for them. But at the same time, when growing up, I always wanted to do something with community. And so what sticks out to me about 2006 is the fact that at the time I'm starting to think about ways that I can get involved in the community, ways I can give back. Because even growing up, I always think, like, how can I give back to the community? How can I give back to the community? 2006, it was a news article. It was on MLive, it was on Wood TV8, labeling Grand Rapids Public Schools a dropout factory. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm a proud GRPS alum. I graduated from the Ottawa Hills High School. And so I graduated in 2001. And so when I'm looking back from 2001 to 2006, when I was at Ottawa Hills, I felt like I had all the support I needed from the teachers. I felt that the curriculum was up to the rigor, but within 5 years, GRPS was labeled as a dropout factory. And so when I was growing up, my dad would always, whenever he would take me to school, because I overslept, he would always have on NPR News and Michigan radio and things like that. And I used to be like, can we just listen to some of the music I want to listen to? But we'll listen to that. And so now I'm a fan of NPR. For anybody who watches this, I'm a fan of NPR, Michigan radio. So just growing up and seeing and hearing some of the news stories, and NPR even did a follow-up kind of talking about the dropout factory. So it wasn't just GRPS. John Hopkins had released a report and it named like hundreds of schools across the country. But with it naming GRPS, and I was the proud alum of GRPS, I started thinking about how can I give back. And so with a few partners and myself, we began and we created an organization, a nonprofit organization. Because first we were just thinking like, man, what can we do? How can we help the students? Because I felt I got a great education at GRPS. The other partners graduated from GRPS, and it was like, how can we give back? How can we help these students? What are some of the things that are needed to help these students? So we created an organization called Open Book Project. And so the theme behind Open Book Project is we felt that life should be an open book. There should be no hidden answers. There shouldn't be hidden opportunities. There should be more options available. So by opening the book, is able to provide the students at Ottawa Hills High School that option. And so really young. So in 2007, that's when we started. So I was really young. I was 24 years of age. So I'm saying I'm really young. So some people are like, hey, you're still young. But so I was really young. So 2007, we started this organization. And so with the organization, the focus was if we can increase the GPAs of the students at Ottawa Hills, if we can increase their ACT score, that would provide them with the options to go and write their ticket anywhere they go. So the thing that we will always say to the students is through education, you can get the life that you choose and not the life that's chosen for you with the lack of education. And so that was kind of the mantra. And so getting started, 24 years of age, go up to the Franklin campus. The person I meet with is none other than the current superintendent, who at the time was the assistant superintendent, Mrs. Weatherall Neal. And so she says, okay, Jamiel, if you want to get started, here are the things you need to do. So she writes down this checklist. I said, okay. So we go about accomplishing those things. But she said, well, where do you want to start? And I said, Ottawa Hills. My parents both graduated from Ottawa Hills, so Ottawa Hills High School has a special place in my heart. And so we began sitting out. And so we approached it from a different standpoint. So we didn't want to be the typical after-school program. But at that time, in 2007, there were no after-school programs targeting high school. So we were kind of one of the first organizations focusing at the high school level. Everywhere else was kind of saturated with elementary through the Loop program and other things like that. So we started at the high school because we felt that that's where the need was most, because they were receiving services at the elementary level, they were receiving services at the middle school level. And so what we did when we went there and met with the principal is we said, hey, give us the students that are in the middle. Give us the students that are in the middle. Because we thought that the students that are in the middle, they have two choices, to go down or to go up. And through our positive influence and through the curriculum that we were developing, it will help them to go up. And so we began getting started. And so when you start working with students, for those of you who work with students, especially those who may come from an underserved community and neighborhoods, you begin to learn that it's just not showing up to class. It's just not, well, why don't you just do your homework? It's a lot deeper than that. And so one of the things that set us apart was we were actually working with the students. And so one of the things that we did, which people say, like, you're really doing that, is if a parent could not make it to a conference, we would stand in the place of that parent. And so we were, after school, me and my partners, going around to each and every table with each and every different student that parent couldn't attend. And it wasn't that the parents didn't want to be there. It's a lot of them were working second shift or working multiple jobs, and they just couldn't, or they had younger siblings or younger children at home where they couldn't get away to come up there. So a lot of times when you say, well, how come parents don't go to school? It's that stigma that they don't care about their kids or they don't care about education, when a lot of times it has to do with the options and the opportunities which we're trying to educate and help their kids be able to access. So everything is going really fine. So the first year we do assessment. So one student in particular, when we first met with the student and she became in our program, she had a 1.9 GPA. So we work with her. By the end of the school year, it goes up to a 2.3. So we switch into the second year of the program. We say, all right, cool. If you can get a 4.0 at any point in time in this school year, we'll incentivize you. So we said, we'll give you a $100 gift card to the mall. So what kid doesn't want $100 to go to the mall? So working with that student, by the end of the school year, that student got a 3.9 GPA. So it went from the freshman year, a 1.9, to their sophomore year ending at a 3.9. And so we were really moving around. And at that time, like I said, there were no other high school programs. And so GRPS, along with the City of Grand Rapids, had begun to look at how can they expand their Loop program beyond just elementary and middle school. And so since we were kind of the ones in that space, we said, all right, cool, we'll do this. But it was us and a few other entities that were involved in the bidding process or the RFP process. And so we didn't make it, obviously. So, but we kept our program going, but we were able to expand our program. So within 2.5 years, we expanded our program from Ottawa Hills to include Union and to include Crescent. And so at that time, we were working with all these students. We have in Davenport University bring in their BPA students to tutor and mentor and volunteer. We're working with the Kent County Mentoring Collaborative. So we were building partnerships that we were going. And so in the summer of 2009, one of the partners who started with me ended up moving out of state. And so it's like, all right, cool. So we're down to 2. At this point in time, I forgot to tell you, doing this 100% volunteer, no money. So the money that we were putting into the program were coming from like small fundraisers, or we're taking like $50. We're pooling our money and purchasing the different supplies and the program, the things that we need. So we're doing this 100% out of our pocket. Until the time we expanded, we were able to receive a little bit of funds from some different entities. And so we were able to, so we're just beginning to pick up steam at that time. Believe to Become was a new initiative. And so we were getting really involved with Believe to Become. And so one of the things with the students is what we always said to say, we're not going to be like the others. And what I mean by that, we're not going to be like the others where we start a program this year and by the end of the year we're gone. Because too much inconsistency leads to mistrust and disbelief and all those kind of things. So if those of us who work in the community, you know that once you build the trust, it takes a lot of time to build trust, but you lose trust instantly and credibility instantly. And so we said, we're not going to be like those other programs. We're not going to be like those other programs where we're going to start and stop because they said, well, Mr. Robinson, how we know that, you're not going to, get sick of us? How we know that you're not going to, because we do this or do that, you're not going to want to come? So one of the students, it was a female student that we had in our class, and she she had her boyfriend like kind of wait out in the hallway because he didn't want to be in the program. He was like too cool to be in the program. And so we ended up getting him in the program. He had a he had a 0.8 GPA. He had a 0.8 GPA. And so through time working with him in the program, we got to know him. We said, well, what do you have? How does he have a 0.8? And so the teacher said he had an A+ in chemistry. So he has an A+ in chemistry, but he has a 1.8. And so when we began to talk to him, I said, well, why aren't you performing like you can? He said, no one in my family has ever graduated from high school. No one in my family has ever graduated from high school. And so at that time, we're putting our all into the program. We're expanding the program. We're working at, so I'm being spread in so many different ways because I'm still working to provide for my young family, while at the same time working to try and build a better way and create more options for these students. And so, August of 2010 is a time where all my other partner decided to take a position also and left the organization. So now it's me, 2010, I'm just 27, never ran an organization by myself without help. I have volunteers, but at the same time, it's becoming overwhelming. And the only thing that kept playing in my mind is I said, I will not fail these students. I will not fail these students. And so after doing kind of a false start in September, I said, well, hold up, let me get some time and try and pull this program together. And so one of the things I was thinking about is in the city of Grand Rapids, where we have institutions that have time and time again failed underserved and marginalized neighborhoods and communities, primarily African American, predominantly Latino neighborhoods. I did not want to be another institution that failed them. In Grand Rapids, a city that has broken systems that aren't working and don't work for predominantly African Americans and predominantly Latinos in this community, I did not want to perpetuate that system of brokenness. At the same time, I'm looking at these students and I'm looking at these parents that we begin to form relationships with. And I'm looking at the school system and how GRPS, I love GRPS. I'm looking at the community, the neighborhoods, my relatives that are in these schools that are part of my program. And I'm looking at them and saying, I cannot fail them. But at that point in time, I just couldn't not fail them. So I let down the parents who would call and say, hey, is the program going on or not? So after a while, I stopped answering phone calls. I stopped answering emails. I would see the students out and they say, hey, Mr. Robinson, are we going to start? And I say, yeah, we're going to start. Knowing that we couldn't start, knowing that I didn't have the resources, knowing that I didn't have the support that we needed. So November of 2010 is the day I just walked away.